Well, Noel, thanks for joining. I'm really excited to talk about this topic because I think it's something that really separates good from the great. So,
Hmm.
we're going to talk about habits. And I don't know, I mean, maybe you had habits when you're younger, maybe in high school, that were really helpful
Yeah.
for you to be successful in academia, or what was something that maybe your parents taught you that doing
Mm.
this is going to help you be successful in school or in life or in a sport? Like, is there anything that kind of comes to mind whenever I ask that?
Yeah, I think I'll back up a little bit because I learned in college through the Southwestern program that habits were the foundation of success. Up until that point, I had no idea what a habit really was. It's amazing that I went through my high school experience. I got my IB diploma, took multiple AP classes, got college paid for, and had no idea what a habit was. Zero. It was
Okay.
all like kind of by the
Okay.
skin of my teeth,
So
I
you
feel like.
so you didn't have any coaching on
I didn't
habits.
have
You had
any
no
coaching,
idea that.
zero idea.
Wow.
I mean, my parents are really successful entrepreneurs, but they wouldn't even describe it as habits, I guess. I
Okay.
mean, they had behaviors that they did over and over and over again and really
Yeah.
a lot of self-discipline, but to call it a habit um was just like, oh, what
Yeah, that's so
concept?
fascinating because growing up for me, it was you do like the things you do every day are more important than the things you do every once in a while. Like that
Yeah.
was like a quote that my parents just drilled and drilled in
Well,
me.
lucky you.
Well, I mean, it helped out a little bit, yeah, sure, but like
Yeah.
it's just so fascinating to see like you got a full ride to university and didn't even come across
I have
this
no idea.
any coaching at all with habits at all.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
What I'll say is, like, now that I know habits and how to use them, though, my life is so much better. Like, I could have done the same thing I did in high school with so much less stress, knowing about habits, with less anxiety. I would have been healthier. I would have treated people better if I
Yeah.
had just known about the concept of forming habits and doing things consistently.
So how long does it take to get a habit, to form
Mhm.
a habit, and then how long would you say that it takes for you to, once you have that habit, implement that? Like implementing that into your life is like just part of your nature.
Yeah. I would say so. It takes about 3 weeks or 21 days to form a habit, right? So those 3 weeks can be really rough sometimes because it's,
Yeah.
man, you're doing something for the first time or really trying to get in the groove, and there's a lot of walls that you need to break in the meantime. But it takes 3 weeks to form that habit and about 72 days or 3 months to solidify that habit and make it like second nature, something you don't need to put thought into.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was a habit that maybe you had? Dude, I know for me, ice cream Snickers bars, dude. Like that was
Ice
my
cream
habit. Every
Snickers.
time I walked into a gas station, like I'd always grab one. So how do you break a habit?
Yeah, that's a good question, and one that actually a lot of people get kind of misconstrued. I'll say one of my habits I still kind of have today because I just enjoy it so much is having my coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
I just have that one cup of coffee in the morning, and it's so hard for me to break that habit. But the way that I have done it in the past, if I can't drink coffee for some reason, I've gone a couple stints without drinking coffee for diet reasons. But you need to form a new habit. There's no such thing as actually breaking a habit. You just form a new habit
Yeah.
on top of it. And it's like, if my habit is drinking coffee in the morning and I need to stop doing that, I need to form the habit of not drinking coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's how you break your habit.
Yeah. I guess looking back, because you're 26 now, maybe if you were 16, like what habit would have been helpful? You can do one for academia, but also just one for life. Like what's a habit that you wish that you could, maybe you're doing now that you wish you would have started?
I wish I would have started and stuck out going to my voice lessons. I started, I
Nice.
think, my senior year in high school trying to get back into more of my artistic side,
Yeah.
really developing a voice, a singing voice, and kind of that creativity.
Yeah.
I started, and then I kind of like, sorry, I got busy. I had school come up. Things just kind of, it fell to the wayside.
Yeah.
So I had so much going on with school and bad time management and schedule skills. So coupled with that, it just mowed over my intention of trying to form the habit of consistently, properly singing and going to my voice lessons.
Yeah.
So There were many times in high school where I did that. But I'll say, like, in high school, I also took a film class, and I ended up winning a local film award, first place in drama for my little film that I directed and wrote the screenplay to. So if that didn't enforce that, something, you should probably check something out in the creative realm, then that was kind of my affirmation. But I still didn't I had the intention. I really wanted to change something, but I just couldn't be consistent enough to figure out how.
Yeah.
And that was really a struggle. So now that I know about habits, to answer the second part of your question, I feel like I would have blown it out of the water just knowing that was something I could do.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, or what would you say for an audience that's catered for our students within LEAD?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for you is like, that was a specific thing. You just wish you kept the training for your voice.
Yeah.
What about for our audience at large? What's something that you would encourage them to continue to do?
Honestly, a huge habit first is just having the habit of the right attitude, positive self-talk, or just being able to say to yourself, okay, like, I know as a teenager and as a young person, you have all of these crazy narratives and voices going through your head, like, I'm not good at this. This kind of sucks. Just things you'll think and not really think twice about because it's so ingrained in you.
Yeah.
But starting to form the habit of building your self-esteem, just saying, yeah, maybe I'm not good at this yet, but I'm working on getting better at this thing, instead of I'm not good at this or I suck. It's I'm working on getting better at this thing. And oh shoot, I really bombed that test. It's like, okay, I learned that wasn't, I should change my behavior towards my study habits so that I can get better at learning these things.
Yeah.
Just more constructive, really self-talk about how you approach your day, how you approach your studies, things that you're doing, if you're in sports, if you're a theater person, if you are in the arts, like try to build yourself up a little bit. And I swear, people are not out here to get you and tear yourself down. That's something I needed to hear when I was in high school, or when I was in college too. And so forming habits physically, you can actually go to class. Go to class on time. Just set those tiny little intentions and form those tiny habits. Tiny habits make us great. It really separates the good from the excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like what you said just about having a good attitude. I mean, my high school wrestling coach, on the wall whenever you walked into the room was enthusiasm. And like that's just like so, like it's attractive.
Yeah.
When you're around someone that does have a good attitude, even when in spite of a situation where it's unfortunate, you know, like if you have a good attitude, people are going to be attracted to that. So I really do like that. I think it's really important. Something that's it's minute, but it's overlooked. But having a good attitude in all things is really, really important.
Yeah.
That's great.
And especially like it's hard enough being a teenager and, with all the influence of the people around you, social media, your friends saying things, or you're always comparing yourself. You have to be your own biggest advocate for self-talk, building the right habits, building the right attitude, because ultimately it's up to you to build those habits. And it is like practicing a good attitude is a habit. It's a skill that you exercise, and it's going to take you so far in the professional world. When you get to be an adult, you're going to look leagues different than the next guy interviewing for your first job, all of that. It's really a huge differentiator that, brings everyone around you so much value.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, let's open up a little bit different. So there's 3 categories. I think it's really important for people to build habits in. I think it's easy for us to recognize a habit of maybe the way that we think, or a habit for showing up for or waking up at a specific time. So there's 3 categories that I want you to open up on, and maybe a habit that you want to develop in or already have developed in. The habit of how you think, your mindset, habits of activity that you do every day, and then the last one is the habit of how you treat other people. So what are some 3 things in one in each category that you think is really important just to add?
Well, I love that question, Camden, because the most successful people really pay attention to those three things. It's like if one of those things goes to the left or to the wayside, you kind of have an atrophy of, the situation. You break your habit in one of those three areas. You're not really embodying the best you can be, right? So, habit around thoughts, I think, is one of the most important things. The way you talk to yourself about yourself in your own head or out loud will influence your entire reality. And also have other people listen to the way you talk to yourself. It informs them how they should treat you. And that's something really, really important. And I know for our audience, it's probably one of the biggest things they really haven't heard about that much, because we don't talk about it in school. Sometimes parents don't talk about this stuff, but what you say to yourself about yourself and building the habit of being more constructive, being positive and encouraging to yourself will take you so far. And, the way you treat yourself is ultimately how you're going to feel about yourself. And you'll take that through your whole life. So you might as well start now and getting a really good head start on being able to.
So what's an example of that you do for yourself?
Gosh. So for myself, oh my gosh, it's so much about how I look, actually. When we're talking about body image, when we're talking about I look pretty today or I look ugly today. We don't wake up in the morning. I don't wake up in the morning anymore and say, oh, I look horrible. Immediately when you look in the mirror, you have a couple thoughts, right? And mine really used to be, or actually they still are sometimes, you look in the mirror and you're like, oh no, we can't work with this today. But that's not helpful. That's not helpful. And it's not true that I'm sitting here telling myself I'm ugly. That's not the truth. Right? I know this now. So that's a first thought. That's what you're allowed to have. You're allowed to have first thoughts. They're usually emotional. They're usually just a reaction that you have. You can't control that.
Irrational.
Correct. It's an irrational thought. You first have it. You can't control it. Your brain just does it. And then you're like, wait, hold on. No. You kind of have to discipline that first thought and say, that was a weird thought that I had, and I'm not going to give it any credit. That was just my brain doing what it does. And I'll let it slide. That's not the truth. I need to come back to reality and say, it's not that you look bad. We're going to do our makeup today. We're going to do the things we need to do to feel so you're going to have,
there are going to be thoughts that come in that are going to tempt you to think something else.
Totally.
But your ability to recognize that they're irrational, that it's just, it's early in the morning. I think that's a really good thing to recognize that can be a skill set that you can develop. That's
that
good.
First thought, second thought concept is a habit that you can form and a skill set. That is not something anybody's inherently born with knowing how to do.
So going into the second category, your activity. What's a habit?
A habit that I am doing every single day for 5 minutes is my vocal warm-ups and playing my guitar. So that's something I just put right into my schedule that I'm allowed every single day. Not allowed. Hold on. That every single day I'm doing at least 5 minutes of this vocal warm-up activity just to keep myself consistent. And when I'm, singing, then I am not just oops, I haven't done this in a week. And we know how that feels when you're doing a skill, playing a sport, doing some kind of physical activity, and you're inconsistent about how you practice. It really can affect your performance, but mostly it affects your confidence. And your confidence about how you feel about that activity is one of the biggest things. Because if you're going into let's say a performance of some sort, or you're, playing a game because you're on a team, athletics, if you haven't practiced in a week, you know that. You haven't practiced this week, and so you're like, uh-oh. That first thought is uh-oh. And then you can't even second thought that because that's the truth.
Yeah, sure.
So it's helping you keep your promises to yourself is building that confidence. It's also reinforcing to yourself through that memory, the memory of the times you've kept those promises to yourself. That's all, it's all connected.
Okay. And then the last one, how you treat people.
Wow. Yeah. The habits and how you treat people. Honestly, how you treat one person is pretty much how you treat everyone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really easy to fall into these routine, honestly, unconscious habits. It's how you treat someone. If you treat someone with kindness, if I treat you with kindness, I'm probably going to treat the next person with kindness. It's just an attitude that I'm going to carry, and it's a habit. Always be, let's say, I'm always complimenting people. Let's say I'm always telling somebody they look good today. And I do that every day because it makes me feel good. It makes the other person feel good.
Yeah.
Or I do a small service for somebody. I open a door, or I get somebody a gift when they're not expecting it, or I listen to somebody when they're having a bad day. So it's things like that that help me make up my personal identity, and that reinforces to myself, you're a good person.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about just giving someone compliments every day. Like, that actually forces, that was something that I've thought about doing before. And there was a time where I just got out of it. Now that we're talking about it, is that being intentional about complimenting other people, it puts you in a better place when you recognize someone else and what they're wearing that day, or their personality, or what they said in a meeting, whatever it is. So I think once you focus on what you're looking for, like if you're looking for, how can I give a compliment today? That's going to put you in a better place. Or if you're looking for a way to make your work environment or your school environment, people are going to be attracted to you if you're seeking out to give someone else a compliment. I think it's a small thing, but it really makes a difference. Because you're absolutely right. How you treat anyone will be how you treat everybody.
It's really important to know, like, especially when you're young, you're in high school, you're in college, it's not always obvious that people value those things. But I'm telling you, when you get into the real world, when you're surrounded by adults, that kind of stuff stands out tremendously.
Yeah.
It'll be the difference between you landing that first job or not.
Yeah.
It's going to be the difference between you having a community of friends and not.
Yeah.
It's going to make a world of difference in your relationships.
Yeah.
These small habits are something that's really great to start forming now, and just being aware of. Just start observing yourself, where you're at, and then take one small habit that you want to implement and implement it.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I think that's a great way to just emphasize the importance of, like, it's not what you do that matters, it's doing it every day.
Consistency.
Things you do every day is more important than things you do every once in a while. So,
correct.
Well, thanks for joining. I think this is great for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Camden.